Well, it's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, if I seem a bit tired or off, it's because I am. We've been putting in that overtime here on True School Sports, but this is the official post-fight review for Chris Colbert versus Hector Garcia, and man, oh man, what a surprise. Surprise, surprise. That's why we love the sport of boxing. Hector Garcia goes in there, late replacement, very overlooked. Nobody talking about him. Nobody giving him a chance. Fighting one of the bright young stars of the sport of boxing at 130 in Christopher Prime Time Colbert. And not only did he beat Christopher Colbert, it was not controversial. It was not one that we had to hold our breath on, and the only reason we did have to hold our breath on it is because boxing is a corrupt sport. But Hector Garcia went there tonight and just dominated Chris Colbert, beat the piss out of him, took him to some deep, dark, uncomfortable places, and maybe Chris Colbert learned some things about him for better or for worse that he didn't know. Cause I gotta be real, when shit got hot in there, when the temperature got turned up in the kitchen on Chris Colbert, he did have an answer. Early on, Chris Colbert didn't really get out to the best start. It seemed like he was kind of taking this guy lightly. And, Hector Garcia was landing shots of his own as well. But Hector Garcia wasn't landing anything big early on. But as the fight progressed, and as Hector Garcia continued to press and apply pressure on Chris Colbert, things got increasingly difficult for Chris Colbert. All the way up until the 8th round, where eventually Hector Garcia caught Chris Colbert throwing a lazy right hand, and boom, came right over the top and dropped him for the first time in his pro career. And just from that moment on, Chris Colbert looked dejected. He looked defeated, and for all the talk that he's had in the past about having all this dog and being cut from a different cloth and all this stuff, the reality is this: Chris Colbert, somewhere around 9 or 10, made a conscious decision that he would rather go 12 rounds and say he didn't get knocked out than to say, that he got folded up and went out on his shield. And it was very worrying because, normally when a fighter has a lot of rounds in the bank and they're winning the fight, they get on their bike, they kind of just move around the ring and kind of just survive the round so they can win the fight in the 12th round. But Chris Colbert was down by a lot. Like, it was a known fact. It wasn't a close fight. There were not swing rounds. It was a known fact that Chris Colbert was down on the cards by a lot, and the only way he was winning this fight was a knockout. And he made the conscious decision to get on his bike and run and like survive. And to me, my issue with Chris Colbert isn't that he got dropped. Isn't that this guy was landing good shots on him and the pressure was getting to him. That to me is probably the real story of the night. That to me really reveals what's inside of Chris Colbert, because for the first time in his career, truthfully, he really got punched in his mouth, and he met a guy in there that was just as determined, if not more determined, to win than him tonight. And when things didn't go his way, he didn't have an answer, and that's very telling. It's like the Josh Taylor fight was a controversial fight. I thought Jack Catterall defeated Josh Taylor, but in Josh's defense, he still tried to go in there and win the fight. He was still in there throwing hard body shots. He was still in the fight. Chris Colbert got dropped like Josh Taylor did, but I never really felt like Chris Colbert was in the fight before or after, but especially after. You could see that he was dejected. You could see that it wasn't just, he wasn't up to par, So we're not going to see him make excuse for Chris Colbert. The better man won. Massive shout out to Hector Garcia, a product of the Salas Boxing Academy. Massive shout out to Bob Santos, a coach, was it Eddie? I think it's Eddie or Corey. The assistant coach, him, Ishmael Salas, and the fine folks over there. Because one thing I try to tell people, because I'm not speaking out of my ass, I've seen it. I've been to the Salas Boxing Academy. I know what goes on there. And when you fight a Salas gym fighter, it doesn't matter how much better you are than them or how much more skilled you are than them. They're going to be prepared, and they're going to come to win. And tonight, Hector Garcia is no exception. So what a story. What a story. A massive underdog goes in there and knocks off one of the bright young stars in the sport of boxing. And really, puts Chris Colbert all of a sudden maybe at a bit of a crossroads. Maybe Chris Colbert doesn't want to be great. Maybe he's more interested in just being a star more than he is a great fighter, you know. We'll see how his career develops. But apart from that, you know, we also had Victor Postol versus Gary Anton Russell. I wanted to touch on that a little bit before I end the video. You know, this is a fight that I talked about at length leading up. And, man, Gary Anton Russell, I thought, did a good job of showing his boxing IQ because, you know, he had a guy in Postol that was very, very long, knows how to use the range, and used it very well. Victor Postol went in there, and he had a lot on his mind, obviously, with all the tragedies going on in the Ukraine. So much respect and much prayers for protection go out to Ukraine, to the people of, you know, even Russia that may be affected by this, and all over the world that's going through a tough time because it is tough what's going on over there. But, you know, he had that going on with his family back home. So that's obviously going to play a role on his mental psyche going into the fight. But Russell did a good job in the early rounds of just keeping things simple, letting his hands go. I think a lot of times in the early rounds, he was just landing things based off of activity. And when you factor in that Victor Postol's 38, you factor in that Victor Postol is a, you know, he's a fighter that is 38, inactive, hadn't fought since the Ramirez fight, which is about 17 to 18 months ago. You know, it was a fight where, you know, Gary Anton Russell was going to have some time to pick up some rounds early. He did that. I think in the middle rounds, Postol settled down and started to catch his rhythm in his legs. He started to show that long jab. He started landing that their right hand, and he really was boxing Gary Anton Russell very, very well in spots of this fight. But as the fight progressed, I think Gary Anton Russell started to show some separation. And he won the fight by a very... My bad, guys. The video cut out. But what I wanted to say was Gary won by a very dubious stoppage. You know, I really think Victor Postol should have been afforded the opportunity to continue because he was still defending himself. He was still in the fight. There was only 20 seconds or so left in the fight. And I just feel like, you know what? Look, Victor Postol's been in there with the best people in the world. He's never been stopped before. If a fighter stops Victor Postol, I feel like they should really have to show that extra bit of quality to get the stoppage. So I was very disappointed in the referee Ortega. I think his name was Mike Ortega. Bad stoppage in my opinion because yes, Gary did get the stoppage on paper, but you know I don't think it should be in that sort of fashion. You know, so it's no throwing salt on Gary. Gary's just a fighter. He's just in there fighting the fights. It's ultimately the referee's discretion that I put into question because Postol was not dropped. Postol was not senseless. He still had his senses about him. He should have been the opportunity afforded to him to continue going. But you know what? Look, it is what it is. It's not a perfect sport, as we really saw yesterday with all the stuff going on. Or yeah, yesterday at the time I'm shooting this. So yeah, man. Credit to Victor Postol, man. If that's the last fight of his career, then I want to tip my cap to him on a great career. He's truly morphed over the years into one of my favorite fighters because he always goes out there and he always shows his quality. It's only been one guy that's really beaten him like extremely decisively, and that's Terrence Crawford, and Josh Taylor beat him decisively too, but a little bit less than Crawford, but still him as well. But Victor Postol's been one of the better 140 pounders for the better part of over more than half a decade. So former world champion. Really should have been two-time world champion because he beat Ramirez, but had a remarkable career. And ultimately, look, every dog has his day. Father Time catches up to all of us. He's been inactive for over a year and a half. Factor in that he's got all the stuff going on, what's happening in his country, and that's got to add a bit more stress to him. So he went in there and performed, did the best of his abilities, and all you can do is hang your head high. But a good performance from Gary Anton Russell. Postol pushes him. I still think the stoppage was very questionable, and I would have loved to see Gary Anton Russell try to show that extra bit of quality to stop a guy like Victor Postol. So I'm disappointed with that, but nonetheless, a good performance. He would have won anyway. He was winning that round. I had Russell winning. If that round would have finished, Russell would have won 7-3 on my card. So yeah, man. Overall, a decent night of boxing on Showtime. And yeah, man. Let me know what you guys think about Chris Colbert's fight, as well as the Postal Russell fight, and leave your comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. Like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care. Thank you for watching another video on True School Sports, the home of boxing. If you made it this far, do me a favor and do yourself a damn favor. Hit that subscribe button and surely you will not be disappointed. You know, True School Sports bringing you the latest and greatest, the untouchable, boxing content, interviews, news videos, breakdowns, live fight reaction extravaganza. We've got a great community of people here, boxing fans all over the world, from America to the UK to Australia and on and on and on. So join the empire today. Hit that subscribe button. Take care and God bless.